As an Alexander teacher, there was a quirk in my personality, I must confess. I enjoyed the Alexander technique as a technique, and I worked with it for a number of years, but I was always interested in other things at the same time. And so when I worked with the client, I'd also be very interested in what the client was doing, and often I found clients who were involved in other alternative kinds of practices. And so working with a shiatsu practitioner, I can remember one day she had her hands on me, and I was very relaxed again. And suddenly this inner voice appeared to put a moxibustion on my 7th cervical. So I told her to do that, and she did. And I could feel the warmth of this little hot pallet on the 7th cervical, which is kind of the bony part of the spinal column in the neck here that sticks out a little bit. I sort of felt a warmth there, and suddenly something began to happen internally that was totally unexpected. And I can only explain it that something in me was awakened from that place, and it spread out through the body. I felt an interconnection from the spinal column at the 7th cervical, through the shoulders, up into the neck, down the spinal column into the legs, and I started to move internally, and it was totally spontaneous, a spontaneous movement that was connecting to the whole body. It was like the crawl, a little bit of a crawl pattern, perhaps. It was effortless. It was quite amazing. And at the same time, I seemed to go into a kind of trance state, or an altered state of another time and place. So there's two things going on here. The body was coming alive from inside and connecting with itself and expanding and moving. And it seemed to be exactly what Alexander always dreamed about. It was as though my body knew intuitively what Alexander had discovered externally. That my body knew how to reconnect it with itself, to find its own sense of flow that was holistic, and to facilitate any movement that wanted to be made completely effortlessly. And it felt like the muscles of the body, in order to move, went into extension rather than contraction. So it was like a dream. It brought me back, or brought me an image of the earliest, like a tadpole, as though, and it was part of my own life. It was a sense of me as a tadpole, and then a frog, and then a lizard, or various stages of development, as though I was revisiting my own evolutionary pattern very quickly, and it seemed to give me the information that in me is my whole history of evolution as a resource to facilitate my more or less human way of functioning now. It was truly a remarkable experience. It really blew my mind, so to speak. That contained in me was that kind of information to facilitate my life now. All the trials and errors of what made us the humans we are today are locked in our DNA, in that sense. So I have a huge respect for the wisdom that's contained in our bodies. And as I said before, at the same time, I realized that Alexander was searching for something in an external kind of way that we have ours in ourselves internally, as the gift of our own being, as a gift of life in us. What I had learned in the Alexander world was that, and I had never felt a complete fit for the Alexander world. I had trouble with mind over body, because a lot of my understanding, which may have been faulty at the time, is that I had to continually reimpose another order on the organism through my consciousness. In order to change a habit, I would have to impose my own, I'd have to dominate, I'd have to create another pattern constantly. And here I saw that the body already knew a pattern that was even better than one that I had. inside itself, and I could get in touch with that through allowing the body to awaken from inside and to begin to move itself. So that was a major transition piece